Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to Al Mizan Sunday, which happens the fourth Sunday of each month, where a sister from our local community will lead our Talim discussion. Today, we have Sister Fatimah Ali, who will be leading our discussion. Her topic is cultivating moments of healing during trying times. I give you Sister Fatimah Ali.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Thank you so much for logging on today for our Mizan Sunday. I'm thankful to have you all here, to have this moment to gather with you as part of our digital community and to discuss our topic of the day, which is cultivating moments of healing during trying times. I wanted to take a moment today to acknowledge that we are going through trying times right now as a global community and as our individual as a personal community. And I wanted to make space to acknowledge the trials that we're going through and to reflect on how we can find comfort with Allah, find comfort within the Quran, and find moments of healing in our lives as we try to strike the balance between navigating the dunya and connecting with Allah with our akhirah in mind. As a community, as a global community, we are going through trying times with the pandemic and all of its repercussions. Many individuals have lost opportunities that they thought they would have. Many individuals had plans that changed on them that they weren't expecting to change. And it's definitely been a period of rapid fire adjustment where we're all pivoting in the moment to try to navigate the challenges presented by the pandemic, which were very unprecedented. There have been some students who maybe lost their high school or college experience that they thought they were going to have. There are individuals who have lost jobs. And what brings more gravity is that there are individuals who have lost friends or family members due to, or health due to the pandemic or the repercussions of COVID-19. Within our own community, I know that we lost, I believe we lost Ustad Usama Cannon at the beginning of September. We lost my uncle, Kevin Morrow, and earlier this week we lost Sister Medina Green. And I don't believe any of all of these individuals returned to Allah. And I don't believe any of these individuals' transitions were facilitated by COVID-19. But at the same time, it's still a loss. It's something that we feel. It's something that we have to process. And we know that Allah is the one who places us on this earth. And we return to, and at some point we leave this earth and then we return to Allah. So we know that these beloved members of our community are taking their transition to a beautiful, bright future that they have with Allah, inshallah. But that's still, as humans, the loss of the individual is something that we still have to process. And loss in general is something that takes time to process. So whether you're a student who lost an opportunity that you didn't expect to lose, or whether you lost and you're someone who's feeling the loss of a meaningful member of our community, I wanted to take this opportunity today to look at how Allah, what Allah provides us with to reconnect with Him as we're processing and going through these more difficult periods in our lives. On a personal note, when I look at the tools that Allah has provided us with, and I try to find those moments of healing and find and cultivate those moments of healing, I often turn to the Quran first. Over the course of the pandemic, I've spent much more time listening to the Quran in Arabic, reading my Quran, practicing my Arabic recitation, and trying to connect with Allah through His original text. And I found a great deal of comfort and healing, and I found the experience of feeling the Quran soothe whatever difficult feelings I might have been experiencing. So, inshallah, I wanted to suggest 2 verses that I've found comforting to recite when I'm just dealing with plans that have changed or uncertainty about the future. I wanted to suggest a verse that the Prophet used when navigating through grief, and then I wanted to suggest a couple of other resources. So the 2 verses that I've read often over the course of the past year have been Surah Ad-Duha and Surah Ash-Shar. That's the morning hours and the relief. Inshallah, I'd like to recite both for you now, and then talk about the comfort that they can provide before moving on to my next 2 suggestions. So for Surah Ad-Duha, for those who aren't familiar, it reads, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والضحى والليل إذا سجى ما ودعك ربك وما قلى وللآخرة خير لك من الأولى ولسوف يعطيك ربك فترضى ألم يجدك يتيما فآوى ووجدك ضالا فهدى ووجدك عائلا فأغنى فأما اليتيم فلا تقهر وأما السائل فلا تنحر وأما بنعمة ربك فحدث. And the translation is, by the morning, brightness, and by the night when it covers with darkness. Your Lord has not taken leave of you, nor has he detested you. And the hereafter is better for you than the first life. And your Lord is going to give to you, and you will be satisfied. Did he not find you an orphan and give you refuge? And he found you lost and guided you. And he found you poor and made you self-sufficient. So as for the orphan, do not oppress him. And as for the petitioner, do not repel him. But as for the favor of your Lord, report it, or in the Clear Quran translation, and proclaim the blessings of your Lord. And that was the majority of the translation was from Sahih International. And the comfort that we find in this verse, I believe this was revealed during a time when the Prophet hadn't heard revelation from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in an extended period of time, and he was afraid that he had earned Allah's displeasure, and those around him were telling him that he'd lost Allah's displeasure, those who didn't believe. So Allah revealed this verse and followed it up with Surah Ash-Shar, or Surah Al-Inshirah, I believe, which is called the relief, excuse me. And the Arabic for that reads, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. And the English for this reads, have we not uplifted your heart for you, O Prophet, and relieved your burden, which weighed so heavily on your back, and elevated your renown for you? So surely with hardship comes ease. Surely with that hardship comes more ease. So once you have fulfilled your duties, strive in devotion, turning to your Lord alone with hope. And that was the Dr. Mustafa Khattab, the Clear Quran translation. In Surah Ash-Shar, or Al-Inshirah, which was revealed shortly after Surah Ad-Duha, if I'm not mistaken, we see in this verse Allah reminding the Prophet that he expanded the Prophet's breast, or uplifted his heart. He removed the Prophet's burden that weighed on him so heavily and raised him high in regard. So to trust in Allah that with every hardship we experience comes ease, or with every hardship that we experience comes relief. And to turn to Allah with hope, and to direct your longing to Allah after you fulfilled your duties. The Sahih International Translation says, so when you have fulfilled your duty, then stand up for worship, turning, and to your Lord direct your longing. So here Allah's reassuring the Prophet, but also all others who read, that He will uplift our burdens that we carry that's heavy on our backs, and that with every hardship we experience comes ease. And He asks us to turn to Him in devotion and to direct our longing towards Him. I think that's powerful, and that gives us direction for what to do when we feel as if we're overwhelmed by our circumstances. I believe Allah also says, or either in the Quran or in a hadith, I know that there's an Islamic idea that every hardship we go through, even if it's just a pinprick, is a means of expiating some of the sins that we may have. So even in hardship, there's the opportunity for healing and benefit and coming closer to Allah through all of those experiences. I think something that we can do in following the recommendations of Allah in this verse is to cultivate spaces where we carve out 10, 20, 30 minutes during our day to sit down and reconnect with Allah through the Quran, through our salat, and through our dua. I believe that the healing power of the Quran and the healing power of Allah's message and our connection to Allah, we can't underestimate that. So when we have the opportunity, there's so much value in finding time at the beginning of our day, at the end of our day, early in the morning hours before Fajr on a weekend, or in between Fajr and sunrise, to pray, dhikr, make dua, and reconnect with Allah with our full sincerity. Um, I think one of the beautiful things about waking up before Fajr, and making dua or making salat, or sunnahs, and reconnecting with Allah through dua or the Quran, is that everything's quiet, and um, the presence of Allah in that last third of the night is palpable, if you're tuned in to Allah's presence. So I think there'd be so much benefit in waking up one time of the week or one time every 2 weeks, really early, right before Fajr, to reconnect with Allah, to make a sunnah prayer and to make dua. And in that time, um, as you're making dua, just pour everything in your heart out to Allah. Similarly to how if you have a best friend or a best relative, and if something's weighing on you, you'll find a time to sit down with them and tell them everything, and they're able to reassure you in ways that others can't. Allah wants us to reach out to Him, to connect with Him, to turn to Him for reassurance. And if we look at every experience that we have in this world as an opportunity to turn back to Allah and to reconnect with Allah, inshallah, we'll we can create, that gives us opportunities to see every hardship that we experience as an a time when we should cultivate space for our healing. And Allah is our Rabb, and He can heal us in ways that nothing else can. So the value of creating that quiet space where it's just you and Allah, or you and Allah, and you're listening to a recitation, or you're reading the Quran, or you're reciting the Quran, or you're pouring your heart out to Allah in dua when you're in sajda. There's so much, there's so many opportunities for healing when you're able to create that space, inshallah. So any time that you can carve out to make that personal connection with Allah, where you're pouring your heart out to Him about anything that weighs on it, it's in those moments where I believe we find healing. It's in those moments where I've found healing, inshallah. Another verse that was revealed to the Prophet, that I wanted to mention, was Surah Yusuf. Surah Yusuf was revealed to the Prophet during the year of sorrow. And I believe, forgive me if I misspeak, but I believe during this year that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was rejected from Ta'if, and during this year he lost his uncle, who'd been his external support, and his beloved wife Khadija, who'd been his internal support. His wife Khadija was the one who was supporting him internally as he was going through all of these trials as a prophet, and his uncle was the one who was supporting him externally as he was going through all of these as he was experiencing all of these pressures from the community. And Allah revealed Surah Yusuf to him during this time as a source of comfort and a source of healing, and a means of showing the Prophet that he wasn't alone, even though he may have felt alone. And the stories within the Prophet Yusuf, the story is linear. If you've never read it before, Allah revealed the whole surah at once, I believe. And in the story of Yusuf, we see how Yusuf and Yaqub or Jacob process their grief and find hope in their connection with Allah. And I believe that making the time to read and reconnect with Surah Yusuf, which Allah sent down to comfort the Prophet, can inshallah be a comfort for us when we're going through trying, unpredictable times. So reconnecting with Surah Yusuf, listening. If you don't have time to read the verse, the whole thing, maybe reading it 5 or 10 ayahs at a time, or listening to a recitation of Surah Yusuf on your way to work or on your way to school. Just creating time to reconnect with Allah's word and His message, and to experience the healing that we find when we reconnect with Allah through our dua and through His message. Because when we make dua, that's us speaking to Allah. When we open the book, that's Allah speaking to us. So doing both dua and reading or listening to the Quran, that's when we enter that conversation with Allah, and that's when I believe we can find the most healing. My final recommendations would be to I've heard of the ayahs of Shifa, the ayahs of healing, and those ayahs being ayahs that were meant to bring comfort to those who are going through difficult times. And so if you Google the ayahs of Shifa or the and a connection error, but you can find some of those ayahs of Shifa, those healing verses, to read, to listen to reflect on, and use as a conduit or a pathway right back to Allah, inshallah. Loss of loss and grief and those things that we're experiencing together as a community on so many different levels, from the simple experiences that we haven't been able to engage in on a daily basis that we used to, all the way up to grappling with the transition of our loved ones. It's not easy to deal with. It's not easy to grapple with and process, and it takes time. Our connection with Allah can help when we make the time to connect with Allah. We're creating that space that we need to heal and to find comfort through all of these trials that we're experiencing. And we're reminding ourselves that throughout all of it, Allah is still there with us. So inshallah, let me see. I think I had one more suggestion, but I'm coming up on the 2 o'clock mark. So let me see if I can remember it. If you're someone who, let me see. No, I think that's it. I think that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for everyone who listened. I hope that you found healing or ideas for healing in the presentation. I pray that all of you find healing and find comfort, and that Allah wraps you in His mercy. Dhikring the names of Allah that you'd like to connect with That was the last one. Dhikring Ar-Rahman, Ar-Rahim, those attributes of Allah that can provide you with the you find to be healing, or that relate to healing, or that relate to His protection and comfort and friendship. And that's one more suggestion that I would have. But inshallah, I pray Allah wraps all of you in your mercy, and all of you in His mercy and in His love, and that during this trying time you find comfort in His presence, inshallah.
Alhamdulillah, Sister Fatima. Thank you so much for those um, warm and thoughtful ideas and suggestions. I've taken my notes, and I'm definitely going to just do some searching. I have a couple of one of the surahs that you recommended, Shams. I have a soft spot for that one, especially when going through hardships, and reminding myself that there's always ease following the hardship. Allah has promised us. He promised us that there would always be ease after the hardship. So we appreciate you and all that you represent in our youth and our young women here in our MercyCCHouston community. And you're just such a promise for us for our future here in Houston, inshallah. The audience listening so that can appreciate that as well. And for all of those out there who may be going through hardships, inshallah, you have taken some of Fatima's suggestions and used them, especially the carving out time early in the mornings, which is very valuable for setting up time for just you and communicating and connecting with Allah. So, Sister Fatima, we really want to thank you, and we'll thank our audience. We won't run the announcements because we did run them for a couple of minutes prior. So we want to thank you, and we'll thank our audience, and we'll just say Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Thank you so much.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum.